I didn't think it would matter. It was my birthday. A quiet one. No cake, no party. Just me in my little apartment, watering my plants like every other morning. That's when the doorbell rang. I opened it to see a small brown package, carefully wrapped, with my name written in my son's handwriting. No card. Just a small box. Inside was a set of beautiful handmade chocolates, tied with gold ribbon. Each piece was decorated with tiny, colorful designs, red swirls, gold flakes, shiny finishes like they belonged in a fancy chocolate shop. There was something elegant, almost too perfect about them. I smiled. How sweet, I said out loud to no one. I picked one up, smelled it, but I didn't eat it. I don't usually eat sweets. At my age, you start cutting out sugar, salt, and everything that used to bring you joy. But I knew someone who loved chocolates, my daughter-in-law. And the grandkids? They could eat a whole bag in one sitting. So I put the box back in the fridge and decided I'd take it to them when I visited later that day. It wasn't meant to be rude. I didn't mean to give away a birthday gift like it was nothing. It just seemed better that someone who actually enjoys sweets would appreciate it more. I thought my son would understand. When I reached their house that afternoon, the kids were already waiting at the door. My daughter-in-law looked tired. She always does these days. I handed her the box, smiling. From your husband, I said. He sent it to me, but I thought you all might enjoy it more. She smiled, surprised. Really? That's so kind of you. I didn't stay long. Just dropped off some groceries, chatted for a few minutes, and left before dinner. As I walked back to my car, I remember thinking how peaceful everything felt. Like I had done a good thing. But I had no idea what I had just done. That night, my son didn't call. Which was strange. He usually does, especially on my birthday. Even if he forgets the date, he always calls later to say sorry. But that night, nothing. Just silence. The next morning, I was brushing my hair when my phone rang. It was him. I picked up with a smile. Good morning, sweetheart. His voice was quiet. Too quiet. Hey, he said. Did you get the gift I sent you? I laughed. Yes. The chocolates. Thank you, they looked beautiful. I didn't eat them, though. I gave them to your wife and the kids. They loved them. Silence. Complete dead silence. Hello? I asked. More silence. Then finally a voice. You gave them to her? I blinked. Yes. Why? Is everything okay? There was a pause. A strange pause. Like he was trying to breathe but forgot how. Then, in a broken whisper, he said, Mom, that wasn't candy. My body froze. I didn't even understand what he meant at first. Not candy. What did that mean? Was it a joke? A mistake? Or something worse? I tried to laugh it off. What do you mean, not candy? It looked like chocolates. He didn't answer. He hung up. Just like that. I stared at the phone in my hand, heart racing. My ears started ringing. Something about his voice. It wasn't panic, it was dread. Pure, cold dread. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. Was he trying to say the chocolates were fake? Dangerous? A prank? A warning? A mistake? I didn't know. All I knew was I had handed them over like they were nothing. Like they were just chocolates. But whatever was in that box, it wasn't meant for the people I gave it to. And I was the one who made that choice. I sat down on the floor, my legs too weak to hold me up. I tried calling him back. Once. Twice. 3 times. No answer. Then I called his wife. It rang, but no one picked up. I didn't want to panic. I didn't want to think the worst. But something about his voice wouldn't leave my head. That wasn't candy. Why did he say it like that? What did it mean? Did he put something inside the chocolates? Was it poison? Medicine? Was he trying to scare someone? Or was it meant for me? Suddenly I couldn't breathe. I grabbed my purse, my keys, and ran to the car without even putting on proper shoes. I drove faster than I should have, ignoring red lights, my heart beating so loud I could barely think. Because if something happened to those kids, if something happened to his wife, because of me, no, it couldn't be. They're fine. They're always fine. It's just chocolates. He's probably being dramatic. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe it was just bitter chocolate or something weird he cooked up in his kitchen. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was something dark. And I had handed it to them myself. With a smile. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my son's face, or at least the way his voice sounded when he said those words. Mom, that wasn't candy. He didn't explain. He didn't call back. He didn't even send a text. and I didn't know if I should be worried or terrified or both. By morning, my head was pounding. My thoughts were all over the place. One minute I was telling myself it was nothing, just a bad joke or a misunderstanding. And the next, I was imagining the worst. What if something had happened to my grandkids? What if something happened to her? My hands were shaking as I made coffee. I couldn't even hold the mug properly. I turned my phone screen on again and again. No missed calls. No messages. I wanted to call them, but I didn't know what to say. Hi, sorry I gave you potentially dangerous chocolates. Hey, just checking if you're still alive after I handed you a box that may or may not contain something awful. I kept whispering to myself like a crazy woman. It was nothing. Just chocolate. He's being dramatic. You're overthinking. It's your birthday, you're just emotional. But deep down I knew. His voice wasn't dramatic. It was broken. And silence after a sentence like that. It wasn't a game. It was nearly 9 a.m. when my phone finally rang. It was him. My son. My heart skipped a beat, then raced as I picked up the call. Hello, I said, breathless. There was a pause. Not long. Just long enough to make the world feel like it stopped spinning. Then his voice. Mom. His voice didn't sound like his. It was low. Flat. Like someone had taken all the life out of him. Where are you? I asked quickly. Are you okay? Is everyone okay? He didn't answer right away. I'm home, he said finally. His voice had no color in it. Just there. But that one word, home, made my stomach twist. Home meant that house. The house where I had dropped off the box. The kids. Your wife. I asked, my voice cracking. Are they okay? Another pause. He sighed. Not like a man tired of talking, like a man tired of everything. They're fine. For now, he said. I grabbed a chair and sat down, because suddenly my knees didn't feel like they'd hold me. What's going on? I whispered. I didn't think you'd give it to them, he said. His voice shook for the first time. I blinked. What was in it, sweetheart? Please. Just tell me. You scared me. He laughed softly. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was empty. You think you're scared, he whispered. I can't even look at myself in the mirror. I tried to stay calm, but my chest was tight now. I thought they were chocolates, I said. They look like chocolates. You tied it up so nicely. With the ribbon and the wrapping. They were chocolates, he interrupted. Technically. What does that mean? He didn't answer. I stood up and started pacing. You said it wasn't candy. What was it then? Drugs? Something dangerous? No, he said sharply. Not drugs. I felt a small relief in my chest, but it disappeared in seconds. Then what? Was it a prank? Were they expired? Moldy? What? He sighed again. They had something in them. Not poison. Nothing fatal. Then what? Something to make her feel sick. Numb. Like she was losing control. My breath stopped in my throat. You did that on purpose? He didn't say a word. I stared at the wall. My ears were ringing. You were trying to hurt her? I asked, my voice trembling. I didn't want to kill her, he said. I needed her to feel what I've been feeling. I closed my eyes. I didn't want to hear this. I didn't want to know this. What has she done? I asked, trying to hold my voice steady. She's been cheating on me, he said finally. For months. Maybe longer. I found out last week. I felt like someone had poured ice down my back. But the kids. She's been leaving them with me while she runs off with him. I begged her to stop. I begged her to talk. But she just laughed. Said I was weak. Said I'd never leave her because she owned me. He paused, then added, she was right. I sat back down slowly. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I thought I knew my son. I thought I raised him better than this. But here he was, whispering into the phone, sounding like a man I didn't recognize. I wasn't going to go through with it, he said. I swear. I made the chocolates and I thought, maybe I'll throw them away. Maybe I'll just smash the box. But you didn't. No. And you gave them to me. Yes. He didn't even hesitate. So you wanted me to eat them? I asked, my voice cracking. No, he said softly. I couldn't keep them in my house. I thought you'd open the box, maybe toss them. I didn't think you'd give them to her. I let out a shaky breath. I didn't know, I whispered. I didn't know what you were going through. You didn't tell me. I didn't want you to see me like this. I paused. And the kids? Did they eat them? That's when his voice cracked completely. I don't know, he said, tears in his voice now. She said they were excited. She opened them in front of them. They all grabbed one. I don't know how many they ate. My entire world collapsed in that moment. You need to call an ambulance, I said, standing again. Now. I already did. Where are they now? On their way to the hospital. I'm coming, I said. Don't leave. Don't run. I'm coming. I didn't wait for his reply. I hung up, grabbed my bag, and left. I didn't know if I was angry at him or heartbroken for him. I didn't know if I hated his wife or pitied her. All I knew was that my grandkids might be in danger, and I had put them there. Because I didn't ask questions. Because I didn't think twice. Because I thought a gift was just a gift. And now everything was falling apart. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I don't remember how many red lights I ran. I don't remember how fast I was going. All I could hear in my head was my son's voice. I don't know how many they ate. They were excited. They all grabbed one. I didn't mean for this to happen. I drove like a mother on fire, because in my heart, that's what I was. A mother who made a terrible mistake. A mother who handed her family something she didn't understand. A mother who just wanted to do something kind, but instead may have ruined everything. I was 5 minutes from the hospital when my phone rang again. It was him. I pulled over. I couldn't answer while driving. My hands were sweating. My chest was too tight. I picked up and said his name softly. Liam? He didn't respond at first. Then finally, after a long pause, he said, What did you tell her? I blinked, confused. What do you mean? When you gave her the box, he said, his voice distant, almost cold now. Did you say it was from me? I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Yes. I told her you sent me the chocolates for my birthday, but I thought she and the kids would enjoy them more. Another pause. A long one. Then he said it. I wish you hadn't said that. My blood froze. Why? I asked slowly. She never would have eaten them if she thought they were from me, he whispered. I felt my breath leave my lungs. Wait, are you saying? She doesn't trust me anymore, he said, emotion cracking his voice. She thinks I'm up to something. She's been suspicious for weeks. Then why would she eat them at all? I asked. Because you said they were from me, he answered. And she knows you would never hurt her. I closed my eyes. Because he was right. She trusted me. They all did. I was the safe one. The harmless, sweet old mom who brought groceries, gave hugs, and never asked questions. I was the one who smiled even when I knew something felt wrong. And that made it worse. You used me, I said quietly. You didn't just get rid of the box. You gave it to me on purpose. No, he said quickly. I wasn't thinking like that. Yes, you were, I snapped. You knew if I had it, it would end up in the wrong hands. And you let it happen. He was silent again. It was the kind of silence that doesn't come from confusion. It comes from guilt. Why didn't you just throw them away, Liam? I whispered. He didn't answer. Why didn't you talk to me before this? Before making something so cruel? I didn't plan it like that, he said. I was up all night. Angry. Alone. I started melting chocolate, mixing things, not even thinking straight. It wasn't poison, Mom. It was just something to scare her. What was it? He hesitated. It's a mix I made from some of my old medical supplies, he said. You remember I used to do first aid kits for camping, right? I nodded slowly. I remember. There was this stuff, bitter root powder. It causes nausea. Fast heartbeat. Makes you feel like you're dying. But it wears off in hours. And you put that in something your kids could have eaten? He didn't respond. His silence was louder than any answer. You told me it wasn't candy, I whispered. I thought you meant it was sentimental. That it was maybe symbolic or something dark. But this was a warning. I was going to stop her, he said. I thought she'd get scared. I thought maybe she'd confess. Maybe she'd even apologize. You wanted revenge. He breathed heavily. No, I wanted control. And suddenly it made sense. My son, the one I raised, the one who once cried at Disney movies, the one who used to sleep with the lights on, had been broken. Slowly, quietly, over years of being manipulated, ignored, and laughed at. And he had snapped. But instead of screaming, he planned. Instead of leaving, he poisoned chocolates. Instead of healing, he chose to make someone else suffer. Where are you now? I asked again. I'm outside the ER, he said. They won't let me in. They said only family. You're her husband, I said. He laughed again. Cold. Bitter. Not anymore. Is she okay? I don't know. They rushed her in. The kids are in the pediatric wing. One of the nurses said the younger one started vomiting. But he's stable. Tears burned my eyes. God. I didn't mean for this, he whispered again. But you did this, I said. Liam, you made that choice. He was quiet again. The hospital came into view. I'm almost there, I said, parking quickly. Don't run. Don't disappear. We'll face this. Together. Will you tell the police it was an accident? He asked softly. I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. I walked into the ER entrance, shaking. And there he was. My son. Sitting in a hospital chair, hands clenched together, head down like a lost boy. But not lost. Broken. Destroyed. By love. By betrayal. By his own hands. And by mine. Because I told her the chocolates were from him. And she believed me. Because I'm her mother-in-law. Because I've always protected her. Because no one ever suspects the mother. But this time, the mother gave the poison. Even if she didn't know. I didn't cry right away. I sat in the hospital waiting room, next to my son, staring at the blank white wall in front of me. Everything felt frozen. Cold. Silent. The chairs were uncomfortable, the lights too bright, the air too still. I couldn't even hear people talking around us. It was like I was underwater. The last thing I kept hearing in my head, over and over, was his voice on the phone. That whisper. That wasn't Candy, Mom. And then the call cutting off. Just like that. No explanation. No warning. No goodbye. He hung up and left me sitting in my kitchen, holding a phone in my hand and 1,000 questions in my heart. Now here we were, in the ER, waiting to hear if my daughter-in-law was okay, if my grandkids were okay, if this family, our family, could survive what had just happened. I looked at him, my son, my baby. His shoulders were hunched forward, his hands locked together so tightly his knuckles had turned white. He hadn't spoken a word since I sat beside him. Not one. But I could feel everything. His guilt. His fear. His shame. And maybe something darker. Something he didn't even understand inside himself. I wanted to reach for his hand. I wanted to say, we'll fix this. But how do you fix something like this? How do you undo chocolates that weren't candy? How do you stop something you already started? I stared straight ahead, my voice soft. Why didn't you just talk to me? He didn't look at me. Just whispered. I didn't want you to think I was weak. My chest tightened. You're not weak, I said. You're hurting. He finally turned his head and looked at me. And the look in his eyes? It wasn't just guilt. It was terror. I thought about stopping it, he whispered. I was going to throw the box away. Why didn't you? I don't know, he said. I kept looking at it, thinking maybe it would scare her. Maybe if she just felt something. Something that would shake her. Wake her up. I stayed quiet. Instead, he whispered, I shook you. He finally looked away. And my heart broke. He wasn't proud of what he'd done. He wasn't hiding from it. He was sitting with it, the full weight of it, and letting it crush him. Like he believed he deserved it. The hallway door opened. A nurse stepped out. Both of us stood up at the same time. She looked at us gently. Are you family of Mrs. Keller? Liam nodded. Yes. I'm her husband. The nurse hesitated. She's stable now. Awake. But very shaken. We're keeping her for observation. And the kids? I asked quickly. She smiled softly. They're okay. They only ate small amounts. They've had fluids and are resting in the pediatric wing. You can see them one at a time. Liam took a deep breath. I watched his whole body try to absorb that relief, but it didn't work. It bounced off him, like he didn't think he deserved to feel better. Can I see her? He asked. The nurse's eyes flicked to me, then back to him. She asked not to see anyone right now, she said. Liam blinked. Not even me? She shook her head. She was very clear. He nodded, then sat back down. Slowly. Quietly. Like all his bones had turned to sand. The nurse walked away. I stood there for a few more seconds before I sat back beside him. Then I asked softly, Do you want to tell me what was really in those chocolates? He rubbed his face with both hands. It was something from my old med kit. Stuff I had from back when I went on that survival trip. It's not poison, but it causes dizziness, nausea, rapid heartbeat. Just for a few hours. You mixed it into the filling? He nodded. It was the only thing I could control. He wasn't looking at me now. He was looking at the floor. Like it had more answers than I did. And you gave them to me, I said. Why? He was silent. Tell me the truth, I said. Did you hope I'd eat them? No, he said quickly. Never. Then what? He exhaled sharply. Because I knew you'd do something with them. You always do. You always fix things. Pass things on. Share. You give. I stared at him, stunned. You used that against me. He looked up, ashamed. I know. And that's when I realized something. He didn't just want to hurt her. He wanted me to see it, to witness it, to carry part of the pain with him. Because he was drowning. And sometimes drowning people grab the closest person just to not be alone. And in that moment, it was me, his mother. I felt the sting in my throat, the familiar burn of tears, but I held them back. You're going to have to tell her the truth, I said. He shook his head. She'll never forgive me. Then that's the price, I said. That's what happens when we break something. He stared at the wall again. Do I tell the kids? No, I said firmly. Not now. Not ever. They don't need to know this part of their father's story. He swallowed hard. But they'll know someday, he said. I nodded slowly. Maybe. But not from you. He closed his eyes. Mom, I didn't mean for this to happen. I reached out finally and touched his hand. And I said, gently but clearly, but you made it happen. He didn't pull away. He just nodded. And in that moment, for the first time in hours, we both cried. Silently. Side by side. Mother and son. Bound together by blood. And by something we could never take back. This part of the story haunts me the most. Because for a few minutes, I thought I was too late. It happened just before the hospital. Before I saw my son sitting in that waiting room. Before the nurse told us the kids were safe. This is what I didn't tell you yet. The moment I realized something was terribly wrong. I didn't wait. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't even change my shoes. I just grabbed my keys and drove straight to their house. That phone call where he whispered, Mom, that wasn't Candy. He hung up after that. I tried to call him back. Once. Twice. 3 times. No answer. My heart was beating like a drum inside my chest. My hands were slippery on the steering wheel. I kept thinking, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe he meant the chocolates were symbolic. Maybe he meant it in a poetic way. But deep down, I already knew. He put something inside them. And I gave them to his wife. To his children. I kept whispering to myself like a mad woman as I drove. It's fine. They didn't eat it. She probably saved them for dessert. It's not too late. Please, God, let it not be too late. When I pulled up outside their house, something felt off. There were no toys on the lawn. No cartoons echoing from the living room window. No barking dog. It was too quiet. I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. No answer. I knocked loud. Still nothing. I knocked again, harder this time. It's me. It's Mom. Nothing. My stomach twisted. I walked around the house to the back, calling out. I tried the back sliding door. Locked. I looked through the kitchen window, and what I saw made my blood run cold. A glass of milk on the floor. Spilled. A chair tipped over. And something else, something small and pink, a child's sock, next to a dark stain. I ran back to the front. Bang, bang, bang. Open the door. I screamed. Please. It's me. Still nothing. I took a step back, looked around, and picked up a garden stone from the flower bed. With tears already rising in my eyes, I smashed the window near the door handle, reached in, and unlocked the door. It was silent inside. Too silent. Like the air was holding its breath. Hello, I called. Anyone here? Then I heard it. A sound I'll never forget. A faint, muffled whimper. A child's voice. It was coming from upstairs. I bolted up the stairs 2 at a time. My knees are too old for that, but fear does strange things to the body. I pushed open the kids' bedroom door. And there they were. Both of them, my 2 little grandbabies, huddled in the corner, one crying, the other holding his stomach. Red in the face. Sweating. Scared. Grandma, the older one cried, running into my arms. I scooped them up, shaking. It's okay, I'm here, I said. Where's Mommy? The little one pointed toward the master bedroom. I raced down the hall, heart in my throat, and pushed open the door. She was on the floor, curled up near the bed. Her eyes open, her face pale, her lips dry. She wasn't unconscious, but she wasn't fully awake either. Just staring at the ceiling. Her breathing was shallow. Her hands were twitching. I dropped to my knees and shook her gently. Sweetheart, can you hear me? No response. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. The operator answered instantly. I could barely speak. I think they've been poisoned, I said. All of them. 2 kids, 1 adult. I don't know what it was in chocolates. Please send help. She asked me for the address. I told her. Is anyone not breathing? She asked. They're breathing, I said. But they're not okay. Please hurry. I've dispatched emergency units. Stay on the line. The older child tugged on my sleeve. Grandma, Mommy said the chocolate tasted like medicine. Then she fell down. That's when I started crying. Right there on the floor. I held the phone with one hand, my grandchild with the other, and looked at the woman lying in front of me. This wasn't a bad joke. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was real. And I caused it. Even though I didn't mean to. Even though I didn't know. I had been the one to hand them the box. I had been the one to say, "Your husband made these, they're for you." And she believed me. Of course she did. Because I was the mother-in-law who always brought over stew. Who gave them free babysitting. Who smiled through every fight. Who never took sides. But now, I had taken sides. Without realizing. The sound of sirens in the distance pulled me back. I stood up quickly, carried the smallest child to the front of the house. The ambulance was turning into the street. Lights flashing. Red and blue lighting up the whole neighborhood. I ran out waving. 2 paramedics jumped out. "In here," I yelled. "She's inside. And the other child is upstairs." They rushed past me. I stayed standing outside, arms around the toddler, rocking back and forth, not even noticing how hard I was crying. And that's when he showed up. My son. Driving too fast. Parking crooked. He stepped out of the car like a ghost. Pale. Empty. His eyes met mine. And for a moment, neither of us said a word. I just shook my head, tears falling down my cheeks. And he looked at me like a child again. Like the day his dog ran away. Like the day he broke his arm at school. Like the day his father left us. "I didn't mean to hurt them," he whispered. I walked over slowly. And I said something I didn't plan to say. Something that hurt both of us. But you didn't stop it either. I will never forget that day. Not just because of the fear. Not just because of the guilt. But because of what I saw through that window. It's the image that still wakes me up in the middle of the night. The day had started like any normal birthday. I was watering my plants. Wearing my softest sweater. Listening to birds outside my window. I had just opened the gift, the box of chocolates my son left for me. And I smiled. But hours later, that smile was gone. Completely gone. Now, I was standing outside my son's house. My hands trembling. My mind spinning. The gift that was supposed to make me feel special had somehow turned into a nightmare. Because I gave it away. I didn't eat those chocolates. I gave them to his wife. And their kids. I thought it was a kind thing to do. I had no idea what I was handing them. And now, no one was answering the door. I stood there in the cold, ringing the bell over and over. Nothing. No voices. No footsteps. No sound. Even the wind felt heavy. I knocked harder. "Hello? It's me. It's Mom." Still nothing. That's when I stepped back and looked toward the window beside the front door. The curtains were halfway open, just enough to peek inside. The lights were off inside the house. I squinted. At first, I saw nothing. Just a dark room. A couch. A toy car on the floor. Then something moved. My heart jumped. It was fast. A shadow. A shape. Moving low near the ground. I leaned closer. And that's when I saw her. My daughter-in-law. Lying on the floor. Her back against the wall. Her head tilted sideways. One hand outstretched. Her eyes open, but not blinking. I froze. I don't think I breathed for 10 whole seconds. She wasn't looking at me. She wasn't looking at anything. Just staring. I banged on the glass. "Hello. Are you okay?" She didn't move. I looked again. Was she breathing? I couldn't tell. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Then I saw something else. A second shape. A small figure crouched beside the couch. One of the kids. He was sitting on the carpet, holding his stomach, rocking back and forth. His face wet from crying. His cheeks red. He looked right at me. But he didn't smile. He didn't wave. He just looked scared. Terrified. I pulled back, panic taking over. I ran around the house, to the side gate. Locked. Back to the front. I banged on the door again. Nothing. I remembered they kept a key under the flower pot. I flipped it over, gone. I turned in circles, desperate. Then I grabbed the stone from the garden. Heavy. Flat. I looked at the small window next to the front door. The one with the weakest glass. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry." And I threw it. The glass shattered loudly. I reached in, unlocked the door, and pushed it open. Silence. That kind of silence that feels unnatural. Like the house itself was holding its breath. The air inside smelled strange. Not like food. Not like perfume. but something bitter. Sharp, like spoiled medicine or something chemical. I called out again. It's Mom. Are you okay? Still nothing. The living room looked like a storm had passed through it. The toy bin was tipped over. A pillow on the floor. A half-empty juice box near the rug. Then I stepped closer and saw it. The box. The chocolate box. Empty. The gold ribbon tossed aside. 3 wrappers left inside, torn open. I felt like vomiting. I ran toward the hallway and turned the corner. And there she was. My daughter-in-law. Collapsed near the kitchen doorway. One arm limp. Her face pale. Her lips slightly open. Her chest moving up and down, but slowly. I dropped to the ground beside her. Sweetheart, I said, brushing her hair back. Can you hear me? She didn't blink. Didn't move. Just stared. I turned her over gently, felt her pulse. It was there. Weak but there. I fumbled for my phone. My fingers barely worked. I called 911. My daughter-in-law, she's not responding, I told the operator. The kids, they ate the chocolates too. Please send help. Fast. Is anyone unconscious? The woman asked. No, but they're not okay. She's not talking. The child is sweating. They need help. I've dispatched an ambulance. Stay on the line. That's when I heard soft footsteps behind me. I turned. It was my older grandchild. Tears running down his face. Grandma, he said. I rushed to him, held him in my arms. It's okay, sweetheart, I whispered. Help is coming. Then the younger one appeared from the hallway, holding his stomach. Whimpering. I picked him up too. They both clung to me like I was the only safe thing left in the world. And I realized to them They didn't know it was me who brought that box. They didn't know I gave away something that wasn't safe. They only knew I showed up. I was the one who opened the door. I was the one who saw her through the window. I was the one who broke the glass to save them. But inside, I wasn't a hero. I was the reason they needed saving. And that truth will never leave me. The sirens came. The flashing lights. The neighbors watching. The paramedics rushing in. But my mind stayed stuck on the moment I looked through that window. And saw her. Still. Pale. Not blinking. I saw my mistake. I saw what love had turned into. A gift box. A ribbon. And something that wasn't candy. I didn't move from the porch. I just stood there, holding both my grandkids in my arms, one on each side. They were shaking. I was shaking. My heart had never beaten that fast in my life. It felt like the entire world had stopped spinning. And then I heard them. Sirens. Louder. Closer. Coming down the street like waves crashing into my chest. I saw the red and blue lights before I saw the ambulance. I held the boys tighter. It's okay, I whispered to them. Help is here. It's going to be okay. But I didn't believe it yet. I couldn't believe it until I knew she was breathing. Until I saw the medics check her pulse. Until someone told me, clearly, calmly, that she and the kids would live. I was still standing at the door when the ambulance pulled up. Fast. 2 paramedics jumped out. A third ran toward the back doors. I waved my arm, calling out, inside. In the hallway. She's not responding. They ran past me without questions. They saw the fear in my face. They moved like people who'd done this 1,000 times. Fast but focused. I watched them go inside. Then I heard tires screech behind me. Another car. It pulled up to the curb fast. The door flew open before the engine even stopped. It was my son. He slammed the car door shut and stood in the street for half a second, breathing hard. Our eyes met. And that was the first time, in all of this, he looked like a child again. He didn't look like a man who made a horrible decision. He didn't look like a husband or a father or a husband who was hurting. He looked like my little boy. Scared. Lost. Like he had no idea how things got this far. I didn't say anything. He didn't either. He walked toward me slowly. He looked at the house. The broken window. The flashing lights from the ambulance. The open front door. The toys still on the lawn. He looked at the 2 children in my arms. And his face collapsed. He fell to his knees. Right there on the grass. Are they okay? He asked. I nodded quickly. They're breathing. They're scared, but they're okay. He looked up at me. And her? I hesitated. She was awake when I found her. But she wasn't speaking. She's inside. They're working on her now. He looked down again. He pressed his hands against his face, pulling at his skin like he was trying to wake himself up from a nightmare. I walked over to him, still holding the boys. Why didn't you answer when I called you back? I asked softly. He didn't respond right away. Then he said, "Because I couldn't handle the sound of your voice. I didn't deserve to hear it." I sat down on the steps near him, one child on each side of me now. "They still don't know," I said. "The kids. They just think Mommy got sick." He nodded slowly. "Don't tell them. Ever." I looked at him. And in that moment, I could see it. He was broken. Not because he got caught, but because he had tried to fix his pain in the worst possible way. And now that pain had grown and spilled over onto people who never deserved it. The kids. His wife. Me. Even him. The front door opened suddenly. A paramedic stepped out. "She's conscious," he said. "We're taking her in now for observation and fluids. The children should be checked too, just in case. Any idea what was inside those chocolates?" I froze. My son stood up slowly. And for a second, just a second, I thought he was going to lie. But he didn't. He took a breath and said, "It was a homemade herbal compound. Nothing lethal, but enough to cause nausea and disorientation." The paramedic stared at him. "And you are?" He looked at me, then said, "Her husband." The man nodded slowly. "We'll need a name and a sample of what was used. For the doctors." "I have the rest of it at my apartment," my son said. "I'll bring it." "No need," the medic said. "We'll come pick it up." Then he turned and went back inside. I looked up at my son. "You told the truth." He nodded, eyes glassy. "I had to." I handed him one of the boys. He held his son like he hadn't held him in years, like he was scared to break him. The little boy looked up and whispered, "Daddy, why is Mommy sick?" He looked down at me, panicked. I jumped in quickly, speaking softly to the child. "Mommy ate something that made her tummy hurt. But the doctors are going to help her now." The boy nodded slowly. He believed me. But I didn't believe myself. Because I knew the truth. And so did his father. We were both guilty in different ways. But only one of us meant to be. And now the sirens started again. The paramedics were loading the stretcher into the ambulance. I watched the back doors close. And in that sound, that click, I felt something change. Something inside all of us. The moment where forgiveness might be possible. Or forever out of reach. We didn't speak in the car. I was sitting in the passenger seat, holding my son's phone in my lap. He was driving us back to his apartment, where the rest of the chocolates were. The paramedics had taken his wife to the hospital. The kids were staying overnight for monitoring. The doctors said they'd be okay. Physically. But something deeper had been broken. In all of us. My son kept both hands tight on the wheel, eyes on the road, face pale. I kept looking at him, waiting for him to speak. To explain. To confess. But he didn't. He just drove. Until we pulled into his parking lot. He put the car in park. Then suddenly, he didn't move. Not a muscle. His hands stayed on the wheel, like he had frozen in time. I heard his breathing, shaky, uneven. Then his voice came, quiet and tired. I was going to leave her. I didn't say anything. He let go of the wheel slowly, as if it hurt. Then turned toward me. "I had packed a bag the night before," he said. "Just one. I was going to take the kids and go. I even looked up a small rental house 2 towns over." He paused, swallowing hard. I didn't want to fight anymore. I didn't want to scream or argue or beg. I just wanted peace. I nodded softly. "She's been cheating," he said. "For months." I didn't want to believe it. But I found messages. Voice notes. Photos. All on an old tablet she thought I didn't use. His eyes were red. She met him at work. Some new hire. They started having lunch together. Then late meetings. Then trips. All while I was at home with the boys. Cooking. Bathing them. Singing lullabies. He looked away. "I gave her everything," he whispered. "I gave her my best years. My patience. My loyalty. And she gave me silence. Blame. Disgust." I said his name gently, but he didn't look at me. "She stopped looking at me, Mom," he said. "You know what that feels like? When the person you love stops seeing you." I nodded. I had lived it. His father had done the same. "She used to love my cooking," he said. "Now she orders food before I even walk in the room. She says I'm too soft. Too emotional. Not a real man. She laughs when I cry. She tells the kids, Daddy is sensitive. He can't handle real life." His lips trembled. I started writing a letter. One night, after she came home late. I was going to leave it on the counter. I wanted to tell her I was gone. That I'd had enough. He sighed, voice thin. But then I saw the chocolates. He glanced toward the building, toward his apartment upstairs. She had bought them a week earlier. Fancy chocolate molds. For a dinner party. She never used them. I found them in the drawer. And you made them, I said softly. He nodded. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just started mixing. I melted the chocolate. I added that powder I had from my old first aid kit. Bitterroot extract. It's not poison, Mom. It just makes you feel sick. Numb. Your heart races. You panic. But it wears off. I stayed silent. I made them with care, he added. Each piece. I decorated them. I packed them in a box. Tied it with ribbon. But you didn't plan to eat them yourself. He shook his head quickly. No. God, no. I wasn't suicidal. I was angry. I was trying to make her feel the fear I felt every single day in that house. He looked at me finally. But then I saw your birthday marked on the calendar. My breath caught. And something in my head said, just give them to her. She'll throw them out. She'll think they're store-bought junk. Or keep them for later. Or hide them from the kids. But she won't eat them. He paused again. But you didn't keep them. No, I said gently. I gave them away. And because you said they were from me, he swallowed. She trusted them. I nodded. He sat back in his seat. Exhausted. I could see it now. This wasn't just revenge. This wasn't a crime of hate. It was a collapse. He hadn't snapped in rage. He had cracked in silence. In quiet moments. In repeated betrayal. In the loneliness of being invisible. And he had tried to turn that pain into a message. One bite at a time. You should have told me sooner, I said quietly. I was ashamed. You still are. He nodded. Then, like something inside him gave up, he opened the car door and stepped out. I followed him into the apartment. It was quiet. Clean. A few dishes in the sink. A toy car on the floor. An open book on the couch. He walked straight to the fridge. Opened the bottom drawer. Pulled out a small container, neatly sealed. Inside were 6 more chocolates. Untouched. I didn't have the courage to throw them out, he said. You knew they were wrong. He nodded. But I still let you take them. He set the container down on the counter like it weighed 100 pounds. Then he turned toward me. I never wanted to hurt the kids, he said again. I know. But I did anyway. Yes. He sat down slowly at the kitchen table. His hands flat on the wood. And for the second time that day, he cried. But not the way people cry at funerals. Not loud. Not messy. He cried like someone who was done hiding. Like someone who had finally told the truth. Like a man who wanted to rebuild from ashes. Even if he knew the house would never look the same again. And all I could do was sit beside him. Not to fix it, but to let him know. He was no longer alone. The chocolates sat on the table like a secret that still had power. Even though no one had eaten them yet. Even though the damage had already been done. I couldn't stop looking at them. 6 perfect little pieces. Dark chocolate shells. Tiny swirls on top. Gold dust on one. A small pink candy heart pressed into another. They looked beautiful. But I knew what was inside. And so did he. My son sat across from me, his hands limp in his lap, his shoulders hunched, his eyes looking down. Like even the floor didn't want to look back at him. I didn't make them to hurt her, he said quietly. I didn't say anything. Just waited. I made them to scare her, he continued. To make her stop. Stop what? I asked. He looked up at me. His eyes were tired. Older than his age. Stop laughing, he said. That surprised me. Laughing? He nodded slowly. She laughs every time I speak. Every time I ask a question. Every time I try to talk about what's wrong. Like I'm a joke. Like my emotions are funny. He exhaled. She once told me I cry like a girl. I swallowed. She tells the kids, Daddy's too soft. He's not like other dads. They don't understand now, but they will someday. He looked down again. And that's what scared me most. I nodded gently. You didn't want your children to learn cruelty. No, he whispered. I didn't want them to think love should hurt. I reached for his hand. He let me hold it. And for a moment, we sat like that, just mother and son, holding the truth between us. Then he said it. It was a warning. His voice cracked. I didn't want her to die, Mom. I wanted her to wake up. To feel the panic I feel every day. The knot in my stomach. The racing heart. The dizziness when she walks past me like I'm invisible. His grip tightened on my fingers. I didn't poison her, he said again. I scared her. Just for a few hours. That's all. But you didn't tell her it was a warning, I said gently. No. You gave her something that looked like love. He nodded. A gift, I said. But it wasn't, he whispered. No, I agreed. It was a message. He looked at the chocolates again. She won't forgive me, he said. I don't know, I replied honestly. I don't blame her, he said. Neither do I. He looked away. Then, softer, he asked, Does that make me a bad man? I took a deep breath before answering. No, I said. It makes you a broken one. His eyes filled with tears. I leaned forward. But broken isn't the end, Liam. It's the beginning. If you choose to repair what you've cracked, in yourself, maybe, just maybe, the people around you will try too. He wiped his face with his sleeve. But not her, he said. She'll never trust me again. Maybe not. He nodded slowly. I'll tell the doctors everything, he said. The compound. The dose. What I mixed it with. If it helps them treat her faster, I'll do it. I smiled faintly. That's a start. I want to see the boys, he added. Not today. Maybe in a few days. But I want to sit with them. Talk to them. Read to them. Make them feel safe. I nodded. He stood up from the table. Walked to the fridge. Poured a glass of water. Drank it slowly. Then he turned to me. There's one thing I haven't told you. I waited. He pointed to the smallest chocolate in the box. The one with the gold flakes. That one, it's clean. Clean, I repeated. No powder, he said. Nothing inside. Just chocolate. I made it for you. I blinked. Then why didn't you separate it? I don't know, he said. Maybe I hoped you'd take it and eat just that one. Why? Because I didn't want you involved. I didn't want you touched by this mess. I just wanted one good thing to reach you on your birthday. I looked down at the gold flake chocolate. One piece of pure love, sitting beside 6 warnings. It broke my heart all over again. Liam, I said softly. Love doesn't have to be wrapped in pain to be real. He nodded slowly. I know that now, he whispered. I just learned it too late. It didn't hit him until hours later. Not at the hospital. Not when the ambulance pulled away. Not even when he admitted what he had done. It happened when we were back at his apartment. After the truth had been told. After the box of chocolates was placed gently into a plastic evidence bag by the hospital courier. After we both sat down in silence and finally breathed. It happened in a whisper. My son was sitting on the edge of the couch, staring at the spot where the box had been. His eyes were tired. Hollow. I was about to get up to make tea. Something, anything to calm the room, when I heard him speak. Barely a whisper. Just 4 words. But the kids ate them too. I stopped. Turned. His hands were gripping his knees now. His head was down. They weren't supposed to, he said a little louder. She was supposed to eat them. Not them. He looked up at me. Tears in his eyes. I didn't even think about them. I sat back down. I didn't speak. I just let him talk. I was so focused on her, he said. On the betrayal. On the lies. On the way she smiled while texting another man at our dinner table. I forgot about the kids. He swallowed hard. Forgot they always beg for sweets. Forgot she shares everything with them. Forgot they're curious and fast and don't ask before grabbing what looks delicious. He rubbed his face, shaking. I could have hurt them. You did, I said gently. He looked at me, stunned. They got sick, I continued. They were frightened. They cried for their mom. They clung to me like the world was ending. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. You didn't just scare her, Liam, I said. You scared them too. You turned your pain into something you couldn't control, and it touched the innocent. I was blind, he whispered. No, I corrected. You were hurting. He shook his head. I should have known better. Yes, I agreed. He stood up, walked to the window, stared out. It was raining now. A quiet drizzle, running down the glass like tears. I saw Jamie this morning, he said, referring to his oldest boy. He ran to the table when she opened the box. Said, "Oh, chocolates." And I smiled from the hallway because I thought finally, someone will take them. He paused. I didn't even try to stop him. Because in your mind, I said, the damage was already done. He nodded. But it wasn't. Not yet. He touched the glass with his hand. They trusted me, he whispered. And I failed them. I stood behind him now. You failed yourself first. He didn't turn around. He just said, I thought I was protecting them. You weren't. I thought I was sending a message. You did. But not the one I wanted. No, I said. You didn't warn her, Liam. You warned the world that you're breaking. He finally turned to face me. Do you think I'm evil? No. Do you think I'm dangerous? Not by nature, I said. But pain turns people into strangers. Even to themselves. He sat back down again, looking at his hands. She was supposed to get sick, he said. She was supposed to feel weak. Dizzy. Not them. Never them. He looked up. Do you think they'll forgive me? I think forgiveness is something we have to earn, I said softly. Not ask for. Will they forget? No, I said. But children remember love louder than fear. You still have time. He lowered his head again. I'll do anything to fix this, he said. Then start by being honest. He looked confused. Not with the kids, I explained. With yourself. You're not angry, he asked. I'm furious, I said. But I'm also your mother. That means I carry your pain too. He covered his face with both hands, then said something so soft, I almost didn't hear it. If something had happened to them, I don't think I could live. I placed my hand on his shoulder. It didn't, I said. But it came close. Too close. He nodded. We sat in silence again. Not because there was nothing left to say, but because the truth had finally settled into the room. He hadn't just broken trust. He had broken the part of himself that believed he would never cross a line. And now he had to live with that knowledge. Not just as a husband, or as a son, but as a father. The hospital waiting room felt colder that night, even though the heater was on. Even though we were sitting on the same hard chairs under the same buzzing lights. Everything just felt colder. Maybe it was the fear. Maybe it was the guilt sitting between us like a shadow that couldn't be ignored anymore. My son sat next to me. He hadn't said a word in over 20 minutes. He kept staring at the floor, elbows on his knees, hands covering his mouth. We had been waiting for hours now. His wife was still being monitored in a private room. The doctors said she was stable but weak. Confused. Tired. The boys were resting in the pediatric ward, each in their own little bed, hooked to fluids. Safe but shaken. And yet, every time a nurse walked by, my heart jumped. Every time I saw a white coat turn a corner, I held my breath. And then finally, at 9:17 p.m., 2 doctors walked into the waiting room together. I'll never forget their faces. Calm. Kind. But serious. They came straight to us. Liam Keller? One of them asked. My son stood up slowly, like he was lifting a mountain off his back. Yes, he said. That's me. The older doctor nodded. Let's step outside for privacy. No, he said. Please. Just say it here. The doctor looked at me. She's my daughter-in-law, I said softly. And the kids are my grandsons. He nodded again, then took a breath. The good news, he began, is that your sons are both out of immediate danger. Their vitals are steady. The substance they consumed was not life-threatening in small doses. Their immune systems handled it well. But they'll need to stay for observation tonight. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Tears filled my eyes. They're okay? I asked. Yes, he confirmed. They'll be okay. I grabbed my son's hand. But the doctor wasn't finished. Now, he said carefully, about your wife. Liam froze. She responded well to fluids, the doctor continued. Her heart rate has stabilized. She was confused when she arrived, dizzy, cold, disoriented. She vomited once, then fell unconscious for several minutes. Liam lowered his head. She's awake now, the doctor added. But there's something else. His voice changed here. It got quieter, softer. We ran some standard blood work. And in doing so, we discovered something unrelated to the poisoning incident. My stomach tightened. Liam looked up. What is it? He asked. The younger doctor, a woman in her 30s, spoke next. She's pregnant. Silence. Complete, heavy silence. I blinked. Liam just stood there, like he didn't understand the words. The doctor continued. Very early, likely 4 or 5 weeks. She didn't know yet. It wasn't part of her chart. Liam said nothing. Just stared at them. The words finally settled into the air. She was pregnant. And she ate one of the chocolates. One of the ones he made. My hand flew to my mouth. Oh God. The doctor quickly added. We did an ultrasound. There's no sign of harm at this stage. But we won't know for sure until later scans. Early pregnancy is delicate. We've told her everything, and she has consented to further testing over the next few days. She knows? Liam asked. The doctor nodded. Yes. She knows about the pregnancy. And she knows what caused the symptoms. My son's face changed. All the blood drained from it. She knows I did it? He asked. Yes. He sat down, hard, like someone had cut his legs out from under him. I knelt next to him. You didn't know, I whispered. But I could have, he said. If I had talked to her. If I had asked, if I had even tried. He stopped himself, then whispered again, I could have hurt all of them. The older doctor placed a gentle hand on Liam's shoulder. She's asking to speak with you, he said. Alone. Liam looked up in shock. She wants to see me? Yes, but only if you're willing. He nodded slowly, then stood up. I'll go. The doctor led him toward the hallway. I watched them walk away, step by step, into the unknown. I stayed in the waiting room, hands in my lap, heart pounding. My son was about to face the woman he tried to scare, the mother of his children, the wife he was ready to leave. And now, the mother of a child neither of them knew was coming. And in that moment, I realized something that crushed me. Even if everyone survives this, no one walks away untouched. Not the children, not the wife, not the husband, not the grandmother who handed over the box without asking what was inside. And especially not the baby, who didn't even have a name yet. I was still in the hospital waiting room when the police arrived. 2 officers in uniform. Quiet, calm, professional. They didn't come in with handcuffs showing. They didn't raise their voices. They simply asked the nurse at the front desk for Liam Keller. She looked nervous. She glanced at me, then nodded toward the hallway where Liam had just gone, to speak to his wife. The officers didn't rush. They waited. They knew. Everyone knew by then. The doctors had reported it. The hospital had followed procedure. An intentional chemical being added to food, even if it wasn't poison, was still assault. Especially when children were involved. Especially when the person who ate it was pregnant. Even if no one died. Even if it was just a warning. It was still a crime. And deep down, Liam knew that too. I sat frozen, my hands gripping the edges of the plastic chair like they were the only things keeping me from falling off the earth. Because I had a horrible feeling that when my son came out of that hospital room, he would walk into something he wouldn't walk back from. I didn't have to wait long. The door opened, and there he was. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. His eyes were red like he'd cried. But there was something else too, a strange calm. Not peace exactly. More like surrender. I stood up. He didn't look surprised to see the police. He looked at them, then at me, then nodded. I'm ready, he said. The older officer stepped forward. Mr. Keller, you have the right to remain silent. It's okay, Liam said softly. You don't need to read it all. I know. He held out his hands. They didn't grab him roughly. They didn't yank his arms or shove his head. They treated him gently. Almost like they saw the brokenness too. The cuffs clicked around his wrists. My knees gave out. I sank into the chair behind me, one hand covering my mouth, the other reaching out for air. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was my son, my little boy, the one who used to cry when his goldfish died, the one who baked cookies for the neighbors at Christmas, the one who kissed his wife's forehead every morning before work, even when she stopped kissing him back. He was now a criminal, and I couldn't stop it. As the officers began walking him out, I stood up and ran to his side. Liam, I whispered, breathless. He turned to me, tears rising again. I told her everything, he said. She didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She just looked at me. What did she say? I asked, my voice shaking. She said, you should have left me. Not done this. I nodded slowly. She's right. He nodded too. I told her I'll take full responsibility. That I'll give her whatever she needs. That if she wants full custody, she can have it. Liam, I don't deserve them right now, he said. Not after what I did. I placed my hand on his cheek. You are still their father. I know, he said. And that's what hurts the most. His lip trembled. I became the thing I swore I'd never be. He took a deep breath. And now I have to face it. He looked at the officers. Then back at me. They said I might get probation. Maybe counseling. Maybe community service. But if she presses charges, it could be more. I squeezed his hand. We'll get a lawyer. He nodded. Then the officers began walking again. Down the hallway. Past the nurses. Past the visitors. Past the birthday balloons and welcome signs and 4 drips. And I stood there alone, watching my son disappear around the corner. I don't remember how long I stood there. The hallway felt endless. And the silence around me was heavier than anything I'd ever carried. I walked slowly back to the pediatric wing. The boys were sleeping. Peacefully. Safely. Tucked under cartoon blankets. I sat beside them and watched their little chests rise and fall. And I thought, they don't know what their father did. Not yet. They only know he loves them. And he does. But love without control, love without respect, love poisoned by pain, can still become dangerous. That's what happened here. My son didn't set out to destroy anyone. He just wanted to be seen. But instead of using words, he used chocolate, wrapped in ribbon, laced with bitterness, disguised as a gift. And I gave it away, smiling. Because I didn't ask questions. Because I didn't see how dark his eyes had become. And now, I blame myself. Not for what he did, but for not knowing he was capable of it. For not digging deeper. For not holding him when he was crying in silence. For believing everything was okay, when it wasn't. The next morning, I got a call. He was allowed a short visit. I went to see him, behind glass, with a phone between us. He picked it up. I did too. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then he said quietly, "You didn't fail me, Mom. I failed myself. And I said something I've never said before. Then let this be the last time. Because pain may break us. But the truth? That's what rebuilds us. Even if it starts with handcuffs. And a box that wasn't candy."